Welcome to the part 2 of my analysis on Skye at Holland. This is a 99 years lease development with 666 units which span across 2 blocks of 40 stories, TOP around 2029. Before I actually carry on to the next part of my video, would you take a moment to like and subscribe to my channel, because this is where I post my weekly content. At the same time, I also like to invite you to join me on my Telegram channel because you will get the latest news as well as my personal opinions on basically everything regards to property. I think in terms of location, no need to introduce too much because Skye at Holland has the best in terms of convenience. It's right next to One Holland Village Mall and also a very short walk to the Holland MRT. One thing that you probably need to take note is there are no schools here within the 1 km radius. So I actually plonked these 2 different site plans to give you a perspective in terms of how the project looks like. This is just based on estimates. It's not exactly drawn to scale. Based on this project, there are 3 main facings. The first most favorable facing would be towards the landed GCB area. And of course, the most premium views will definitely enjoy the landed facing, which is the key highlight and character of this project. And then the next facing, stacks 13 all the way up to 16, will be facing towards the HDB view. The HDB will also TOP around the same time, so probably you don't have to be very concerned in terms of any noise. Much rather, the view will of course not be as nice as what facing towards the landed lah. The last facing will be towards the internal facing, which is towards the pool area. So since we are talking about the development, might as well we just zoom in into the site plan. Based on 666 units, I think based on land size, it is not considered really big. However, it still features full facilities but no tennis court. In terms of unit distribution, Skye at Holland actually ranges from the smallest unit of 2 bedroom all the way up to 5 bedrooms. You'll notice that this project does not carry any 1 bedroom, which is a clear good sign because this actually cuts out a lot of investors. And this also means that this project is more focused toward own-stay buyers lah. So usually this will help to ensure that there is healthy resale volume activity. So from the unit distribution, 44%, which is almost half of the 600 plus units here, are mainly 2-bedders. About 20% will go to the 3-bedders and the rest will belong to the bigger units. So unlike what we see from One Holland Village, which actually has a very huge number of small units, we are talking about 70% of small units here, Skye at Holland is more focused towards own-stay buyers. Since right beside us, we already have a quite relatable project called One Holland Village. Although it is a mixed development, but it's just right beside us and not too far in terms of age. It will be also very good because we can actually dive deeper into their layouts because we also want to know what prices have been transacted and accepted in this area, especially for the small units at Skye at Holland, because almost 70% of the units are the 1 and 2 bedrooms. There's a very high chance that you will face competition in the future, whether you are looking to rent or buy. This is where we will be able to find out whether we have a competitive advantage over our neighbors. Okay, without further ado, let's look at the 2 bedrooms. So the first unit type is actually the 2-bed 1-bath, 581 square feet. There are actually 2 main unit types, which is B1 and B2. So in terms of configuration, it's pretty much the same, but the main difference between these 2 is actually where the DB box is located at. I would actually have preference to the type B2 layout. It's also easier for you to access to this DB box. Actually, I would say that in comparison to all the past launches in the CCR area, the developers actually plan this 2-bed 1-bath bigger than expected. Usually, the 2-bed 1-baths in today's market are about 40 to 50 square feet smaller. And in 2-bed 1-bath, one of the most important things is actually the size. Why size is important is because it also translates to our overall entry price. Take for example, if today a typical 2-bed 1-bath on average is about 530 to 540 square feet. This is 580 square feet, right? We have a size difference of about 40 square feet. Let's say we take an average of about 3,000 per square foot, which is like the rough estimate averagely for a CCR project. Although it is not very noticeable if we were to visit the unit, right? But this 40 square feet can translate to a very high price quantum of $120,000. And paying this $120,000 could actually translate to a difference in affordability, and most importantly for those buyers who are looking to purchase to rent out. This $120,000 a lot of times will affect the rental yield. Before I actually carry on to the next part of my video, would you take a moment to like and subscribe to my channel, because this is where I post my weekly content. Hopefully the developers will actually price the 2-bed 1-bath in a very attractive way. However, if let's say the per square foot is high and this size is already comparatively bigger than the usual average size of a 2-bed 1-bath, then this will mean that you will experience a lower rental yield if you want to rent out. By the way, if you are curious as to how the developers are likely going to price their units, you can actually tune in to the part 1 of my video where I have shared in depth by comparing to the past launches. So another thing based on these two layouts, of course, there are very different facings. Type B1 is actually facing internally, whereas Type B2 is facing towards the HDBs. Although I have a preference in terms of this layout, this unit facing might not be as desirable as what an internal facing unit is. So my preference for these two units will highly be dependable during launch day when developers have actually reviewed their pricing, because this is where I'll be able to have a clearer idea on whether paying a premium for facing is better or sticking to a better floor plan would be better. I mentioned earlier, because 2 bedrooms, we really do have a lot in this area, particularly in One Holland Village residence, which is why I actually placed the floor plan side by side just to give us a clearer idea of the position we will be if we were to buy into Skye at Holland. So the first thing we noticed based on these two floor plans, even though Skye at Holland is maybe about 100 square feet smaller, but in terms of floor plan, there is actually not too much of a difference. The main key difference for One Holland Village is actually at the balcony area and the aircon latch, because let's not forget that when One Holland Village was launched during 2019, there is no GFA harmonization, which means that developers are allowed to actually count in the aircon latch and build extra big balcony and still be able to charge you for it. For One Holland Village, we can see that the price ranges from 1.6 all the way up to crossing $2.038 million. So 1.6 million is definitely during the start of the launch during 2019. And of course, they sold out closer to 2022 at a per square foot of close to $3,000. I don't think it is really fair to say that the prices for One Holland Village has already hit 2009. That's why anything that's in $2 million is something that is worth to buy. Because when I look at the transactions, I realized that even though a lot have actually hit the seller stamp duty, but there are no transactions clocked. That's why I think it is more safer for me to actually use the median price of $1.86 million as a benchmark price, even though One Holland Village actually transacted at a much lower per square foot of 2,300 per square foot. But you can see that because of harmonization, let's say developers were to start launching their prices at about $2,800 per square foot, the overall quantum works out to be very similar to what One Holland Village has already transacted in 2019, which is why actually there are quite a lot of marketing done that today you can get units at 2019 prices. Okay, but in a nutshell, I think that being able to buy anything that is between 1.6 all the way up to $1.7 million for a 2-bed 1-bath here is definitely something that you can only find in Skye at Holland today. It still falls well under the median price that has been transacted in a 2-bed 1-bath. So let us actually explore if being a landlord, buying this unit to rent out actually makes sense. This is the average rental transactions that have happened within these 6 months in One Holland Village, and the average per square foot actually works out to be about $8. Why I actually want to do this is because we are going to use these $8 per square foot to see whether renting out the unit at Skye at Holland actually makes sense. So I've actually done up a table and a price matrix based on a range of 2008 all the way up to $3,200. So for a 581 square feet unit and 2,800 per square foot, the purchase price works out to be about 1.626 million, so on and so forth, all the way up to $3,200 per square foot. Based on $8 per square foot, the estimated rental per month should be about 4,600 plus minus per month. If let's say the purchase price is at 2,800 per square foot, this will mean that the rental yield is about 3.43%. Even right down until the 3,200 per square foot range, rental yield will be 3%. Is it considered high? I would think that it is not actually the highest in the CCR area. But if let's say you really like the Holland Village area, you want to actually take this chance to own a Holland Village property at 2019 prices, then the key thing if you want to focus on rental is to focus on getting as low of a purchase price as much as possible. Moving on, we are going to the 2-bed, 2-bath. There are actually 4 main layouts, but I only put in 2 floor plans because there is really not too much of a difference. So the 2-bed, 2-bath is mainly dumbbell layout, except for the type 1 and 2, the kitchen is actually open, whereas for type 3 and 4, it is a semi-enclosed tucked-in kitchen. Needless to say, if you have seen so much of my videos, you know that I would have a strong preference towards the type B3 and B4 layout because 2-bedroom is usually a sweet spot, especially for first-time buyers. Having this enclosed kitchen will definitely help you stand out in the resale market, be it in the development itself or in the surrounding. Okay, so I'm going to touch on a little bit based on the prices. So this number is based on estimates. I also want to show you whether it makes sense for you to go for premium facing or not. So for the type B1 and B2, what you can notice is both of these units are actually facing towards the inner facing, towards the pool area. Pool area will mean that it is going to be more premium as compared to something that is facing towards the HDB side. And that is what type BP4 is. Type BP4 actually faces towards the HDB area, whereas type BP3 actually faces towards the internal facing, which is very similar to what type 1 and type 2 is. So I did a price estimate because there is about a 10 square feet difference in terms of the first type here versus the second type here. And I wanted to find out whether it makes sense to go for the smaller or the bigger unit. So although this type BP4 is actually bigger in size, which naturally should command a higher quantum, but because of its HDB facing and its number is stack 14, some might be a bit particular in terms of the number. So there is a chance whereby developers might price these units slightly lower than type BP3. If let's say I do an estimate of maybe a difference of $100 per square foot. Take for example, for the pool facing, I actually put at 2,900 per square foot. Okay, so the estimated price is about 1.93 million. Versus if today I just want stack 14, maybe developers actually price this unit a little bit cheaper because it's HDB facing. Based on 2,800 per square foot, it works out to be $1.898 million. So the price will mean that actually you could get a slightly higher floor over here in stack 14 as compared to something that is pool facing. And if you will want to aim for the best layout with the best facing, then a stack 11 at 678 multiplied by 2,900 per square foot will work out to be about 1.966 million. We can see that pool to pool facing, right, there is only a $32,000 difference. You get a better layout with a better facing. I think it's definitely very worth it. However, if you have a budget to stick to, going for stack 14 will be something that you can consider because you're going for a lower quantum. Even though facing not as nice, but you still get a much better layout as compared to this. Why is it important for us to get a better layout? It's because when I compare it to our neighbor, the smallest 2-bed, 2-bath there is actually 797 square feet. And when we zoom into the layout, there is really not much difference apart that it has a much bigger balcony and AC latch is actually accounted for. So technically speaking, in terms of floor plan, probably it is not as much bigger as what we can imagine to be. Plus, it is actually a linear kitchen over here as compared to Skye at Holland, the type B3 and B4, which has enclosed and tucked-in kitchen. That's why I'll feel that in terms of 2 bed, 2 bath, the type 3 and 4 will definitely be what I will prioritize first, because the layout would actually help you to stand out so much more, especially since in Holland Village there are so many 2 bedrooms supply in the vicinity. Next, I actually put in the price matrix over here, which starts from 2008 all the way up to 3000 per square foot. The starting price for a 2 bed 2 bath here should start at about 1.898 million, all the way up to 3000 per square foot for the higher floors. Mainly those that are facing towards the pool area will be looking at around 2.034 million. From 2008 to 3000 per square foot, it is still much lower than what the median price of One Holland Village average transacted price is. Even though Skye Holland has a much higher per square foot in comparison, but the overall quantum is still very much more affordable. Just like earlier on, we are going to look at the average rental yield, going to use the same $8 per square foot, which works out to be about $5,400 per month. At 2,800 per square foot, the rental yield will still work out to be about 3.43%. But of course, my personal take is, if today you want a $5,400 rental, this probably shouldn't be your first choice. And at 1.8 to $2 million, sometimes the rental that you can get can be much higher in comparison to this. Last but not least, we are going to look at the 2+ study. There are 3 main layouts, which is type 1 all the way up to type 3. The main difference between these 2 floor plan is the type 1 and type 2, they actually have their study in the master bedroom. As compared to type 3, their study is just right along the main entrance of the house. So my preference will be towards the S1 and S2, because having a study here, this layout, right, would appeal to 2 different groups of people. The first group will definitely be people who are looking to have a study in their house. The next group of people will be people looking to expand their master bedroom to create an even bigger space in the master bedroom. It is important for us to actually have more options, because it also allows the resale buyers to have flexibility to configure to what they like. As compared to possibly type 3, the study is actually located right beside the entrance, and this is actually not a very big study area. It's more towards a study corner. My only worry is some buyers might not see the true benefit of having this corner here. Based on the 2 bed 1 bath, 2 bath and 2+ study, I actually really love the 2+ study configuration because of its enclosable kitchen and also separate study, which allow flexibility for buyers to have a separate study and also a bigger master bedroom altogether. This floor plan is actually really nice, and the good thing is also One Holland Village does not have any 2+ study in the supply, so possibly fill up the gap for future buyers who are looking for extra space. But what concerns me is probably in terms of price, it might not be very affordable, because these units are either landed facing or internal pool facing. So if you are really able to get something at 2,800 per square foot at $2.049 million, I would think that this is a steal, because this price is actually very similar to what a higher floor 2 bed 2 bath should be in terms of price. If on launch day you are able to find this price, please definitely go for this unit. If let's say it's at $3,000 per square foot, it probably is not really very cheap per se. I would think that a 2+ study will be more suitable for those of you who are looking for own stay, because really very comfortable. The layout is nice. Just to summarize my take on the 2 bedrooms, I want to break it into 3 main points. The first is the entry price. So like the first part of my video, I've actually talked about what is the developer's pricing strategy likely going to be, using a case study in Upper House. In Upper House, the developers actually price the bigger units at a higher per square foot and the smaller units at a lower per square foot. So buying a small unit at a benchmark price that the big units have transacted will also allow you to have an additional layer in terms of protection for your purchase, so that you'll be able to exit easier in the future. However, based on these price points, rental yield is not really considered high in the CCAR area. So I would consider the 2 bedrooms in this project to be more towards own stay as compared to buying for purely rental purposes. Next, we are going to look at the 3 bedrooms. The first unit type is actually a 915 square feet. This is the smallest 3 bedroom unit type and in fact cannot be found in One Holland Village as well. The main difference between the type C1 and C2 is actually towards the foyer area, but otherwise everything is more or less pretty much the same. At 915 square feet, developers have actually done up a glass wall here so that the kitchen don't look very dark, and same time it is also an enclosable kitchen and all the bath actually comes with their individual windows. I was estimating the price to start from 2,800 per square foot. If you look into the property portals, right, actually this price really not easy to find in this area lah. And in terms of supply, One Holland Village also does not have any 915 square feet unit. Their smallest 3 bedroom is already starting from 1098 square feet. 3 bedroom premium. So this 915 square feet, I feel that it could be very attractive for those of you who are actually looking to come into Holland Village, because this price is probably what we can only find in 2019. We only can find it today because this project is harmonized. At this quantum, at 915 square feet, I think this is something that probably a lot of HDB upgraders will be aiming to come into. In terms of resale market, their starting price is easily about $3.3 million starting from. So at prices from 2.6 plus to 2.7 million, this could actually fit into the gap of those of you who are looking into a 3 bedroom but don't really have that much of a budget to go to a 3 bedroom premium. Next, the 3 bedroom premium, 2 different types as well, which is type CP1 and CP2. The main difference is actually at the foyer area. One is more narrow and one is more wide. This floor plan is actually quite a nice floor plan, nothing to complain about, with 3 proper bedrooms. Kitchen comes with the WC and household shelter. So let us look at the starting price. At 1076 square feet, let's say the indicative price at 2,800 per square foot is about $3 million. I think a more realistic price to look at this, because it is a bigger unit, should be about 3,000 per square foot at $3.228 million. And this is possibly what the neighbors, One Holland Village, the resale prices are at already. They actually is very, very similar in terms of floor plan. At 1098 square feet, they have a huge balcony here, AC latch, because in the past they can build it this way. So essentially today, if you are looking at Skye at Holland, you're paying possibly about 3.2 million with fully usable space of 1076 square feet. I would think that it's still bigger in size as compared to One Holland Village. There are plenty of listings right now asking about 3.4 all the way up to 3.8 million dollars. If you will be able to find something at 3.2 million dollars, you are finding something that is brand new, of a better layout, that essentially will translate also to a bigger space but yet at the same price. So we have come to the 4 bedrooms. 4 bedrooms is actually what I find I would prefer more in Skye at Holland, because the developers actually built the size in a very interesting way. The smallest 4 bedroom here is actually the 1238 square feet, 2 main layouts between type D1 and D2. So very interesting, even though it is the smallest 4 bedroom unit type, but it still comes with a private lift, which is essential in this area, because buyers of 4 bedrooms, naturally they will still want the entire grand feeling, and one of the more important things is definitely the private lift. In terms of floor plan, nothing much to complain about, but one thing I want to highlight is comparatively to other recent launches, for example, Promenade Peak is at 1,400 plus square feet, right? So at 1,238 square feet, this actually can translate to a more affordable quantum. If I start the price at about 3,000 per square foot at $3.7 million, right? This price is very similar to what One Holland Village Residences, their non-harmonized 3 bedroom, is asking for. So in 2019, their asking price for 3 bedrooms are already crossing $3,000 per square foot. And it has already been transacted and accepted. In fact, in the resale market, it has the 3,700 per square foot at 4.68 million. This floor plan was actually sold. This is the only transaction that has been clocked. Why do I actually want to share with you this? Is because I believe that anybody who wants a 4 bedroom will not be able to compromise and tell themselves that they can stay in a 3 bedroom. So I think the developers, when they build the 4 bedroom in a 1238 square feet, it actually caters to people who are slightly more budget conscious but still want to stretch to a 4-bedroom unit. And not forgetting that at 3.7 million, it is really very hard to find a 4-bedroom in the CCR area that comes with private lift. If any buyer will want a decent sized development, close to amenities, with decent layout, then Skye at Holland is probably the only option that you have. And also, besides that, why I say that this could be a very good gap for buyers who really want a 4-bedroom and want to come into this area is because, right, Promenade Peak, their 4-bedroom was sold at starting from 4.6 million. So this is actually the general price of what a 4-bedroom in the CCR area should rightfully be. So at this quantum, I think very nice for any HDB upgraders who wants to come into Holland Village. Not forgetting that I also have a strong preference for 4-bedroom. Why? Because One Holland Village, they only have about 9 units in the entire unit mix. Their average 4-bedroom of 2088 square feet starts from 6.4 all the way up to $7.154 million. At 3.7 to 3.8 million for Skye, I think it really forms a very good gap for those of you who wants to focus on budget and still wants a 4-bedroom. So the last layout for the 4-bedroom is the 1464 square feet layout. In comparison to a previous layout, it has a wide frontage living area. Kitchen is very nice because if you're cooking, you can close up the kitchen. If the guests are coming, you can open up the kitchen for the living room and kitchen to form as one space, which is very good if you are somebody who actually loves to host a lot. And not only that, the 4-bedroom comes with its junior master and a very nice size master bedroom and walk-in wardrobe. So all in all, 1464 square feet, although it's not the biggest in terms of the 4 bedrooms, but like what I mentioned, the floor plan is really nice, and with the starting price of about $4.4 million, right, this is really something you probably cannot find in new launch development. Here I also put the 2088 square feet side by side for a comparison for you. You'll notice that as long as the project is not harmonized, developers are allowed to build this super huge balcony and then super huge aircon ledge, and last but not least, super long foyer area. So these are the clear signs of projects that have not been harmonized. If we add all of these up, I don't think One Holland Village is really that much bigger in size in comparison to Skye at Holland lah. If we zoom into a floor plan, it's really not much different until it can command about $3 million in terms of purchase price. So just to sum up, the 4-bedroom actually is one of my favorites in Skye at Holland. Whether it is to cater towards the more budget conscious trying to come in the CCR area, if you have a fixed budget and you still need 4 bedrooms and you want to be in the CCR area, I think Skye at Holland gives you a very good alternative. But of course, the best floor plan will still go to the 1464 square feet. But between these two floor plans, I think the price difference is about 600 plus thousand lah. So I cannot say that this layout is the best, just go for it. Also not forgetting that at $4.7 million, there could be also other choices in the surrounding as well. Last, we are going to 5 bedrooms. So this is actually 1765 square feet. I think in terms of layout, developers done it very, very nicely. Landscape format, living room, 6 meters, and then very decent size bedrooms. Kitchen that follows the previous 4-bedroom floor plan. Private lift, you have a separate yard area with WC, household shelter. Everything is really, really nice. I think it ticks all the boxes for buyer who doesn't mind a 99-year leasehold, wants to be in Holland Village. Of course, I still put in the 2088 square feet 4-bedroom in comparison. You can see that the difference, although it is bigger in terms of size, but 1765, you're still able to squeeze in 5 bedrooms and not necessarily mean that your bedrooms are much smaller as compared to the 2088 square feet. I would say that honestly, most of it actually went to the balcony area lah. So stop shopping for layouts purely by size. You really have to see where is the size located at. So even at starting price from about 5.3 million all the way up to $5.65 million, it is still something that is well below the median price of a 2088 square feet 4-bedroom for One Holland Village. I would feel that actually this 1765 square feet would look like a 2000 square feet more as compared to this because of all the wasted space over here. Does it actually make sense to buy big units here? That was also my worry because based on this budget, naturally there are still options surrounding especially freehold projects, right? So I looked at some of the past projects that are nearby. First is actually Hill on Holland. So here there are actually mainly 2 and 3 bedrooms. The first thing that I think we can notice is the 3 bedrooms actually make much higher ROI as compared to the 2 bed. The next one we want to see is also Leiden Green. I actually section up to 3 main unit types, which is the 2 bedrooms, the 3 bedrooms, and the 4 bedrooms. It is clear to see that the bigger the unit type, the much higher the analyzed returns. Also not forgetting that a big unit also could mean that there is actually no supply, not much competitors for you to fight with. Why I say that is because when we look at the 2 bedrooms in comparison, there is really a lot of listings that are currently selling in the market. Whereas for 3 bedrooms, a bit lesser, but still quite a lot. But if we look at the 4 bedrooms, there are only 13 units, even though there are the same amount of projects. So this actually shows that there is demand of big units in this area. Not forgetting previously when Upper House was launched, the big units actually sold first. And people who are buying there actually buy top down. So just want to do a quick sum up of my video. Basically, based on the bigger units, it usually actually attracts quite a strong demand based on what we have seen in the surrounding resale projects, which can help you to support safer exit later on. Smaller units, although they can give you a lower quantum, allow you to buy and enter easily, but because I have not seen any transactions that have been in the resale projects surrounding, unless they are priced attractively, unless they are priced at a lower per square foot as compared to the bigger units. Otherwise, I don't feel that they are something that you can focus on. But however, for smaller units, just want to bear in mind that the resale, in terms of selling, it could take longer. Because it takes longer, many owners there will likely rely on rental in the meantime. So this will mean that you might face a strong competition in terms of renting and selling in the future. That's why most importantly, you do want to make sure that your entry price is attractive so that you would have easier exit as compared to your competitors in the future. Preview date is on 26 September 2025. Booking will be done on 11 October. If you need professional advice on how to analyze the units, which are the unit types to go for, or basically just to compare this project to any project that you are looking at, do reach me at my contact number here. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video.